So this is a little bit of an unusual impromptu live for me. Usually I'm not usually up during the day like this. Or if I am, it's very sort of stagnant. Because I'm more of a night owl, so my productivity is usually very much in the night. Um, I feel like as I've been learning and getting learning more about myself and my empathic abilities and um, doing on being on this healing journey of mine. Um, these are things that I'm really coming into understanding and acceptance about myself. Anyway, this past weekend, as of course, as we're coming into the darker parts of the year, and we're coming into Scorpio season, Samhain, Halloween. The veil is getting very thin, um, and you know I started recording a video this past weekend. Actually, I started it on the 25th, and I was doing it in the wee hours of the morning. And I think what I'll end up doing with that video though is probably just cutting it up and making it into shorts. But there there was a very strong message that wanted to come out. And then, like I said, as I started to film it, I ran out of space on my phone. Um, and so I didn't get back to finish filming the video. But yeah, so I pulled some cards, and these are some of the cards that, if you haven't seen my last video that I did, um, I was talking about poetry and tarot. Um, and I was showing you guys these books here. The All of It Is You by Nico Tortorella poetry. Everyone's an Albion If You're an Albion Too by Johnny Sun. And I just feel like these books are very like encompassing to the understanding of, we are beings first. We are spiritual beings first, and then we're human second. But the understanding that we're all human, we all come from divine source, we all are love, right? And that's essentially the motto here on my channel, and the understanding of that. And so therefore, that's why it's so important for us to do the healing work, to do the shadow work, right? But anyway, so as I pulled some cards and I started talking about it, the Five of Wands, the Queen of Cups, the King of Cups, and the Page of Pentacles. And of course, these cards are from the Cosmo Beings tarot deck. If you, like I said, I'll have, as this is a live, I'll have to put all the posts, I think. I'll have to put all the links in the description box for you. But if I can put them in the thumbnail, I will absolutely do that. But this is the Cosmo Beings Tarot by Joanna Nelson. And so while those cards came up and I was talking about them, what I'm realizing, and what's, as I've been, meditating and channeling and stuff like that. The idea of, spiritual warfare, that the idea, because there were questions that actually came up for me as I was doing the reading. It ended up becoming a weekend long reading, actually, with multiple decks. And so I'm going to share some of that with you here. But on Saturday at about 10 p.m., I heard, "Did you pass the ethics test?" And throughout the whole weekend, that's pretty much what I've been hearing. Did you pass the ethics test? But it was the way that it was coming in. And, and of course, so I was, I took that as, okay, well, that's for me to self-reflect on, but also it was coming in like a collective message. And it was coming in because as I even was exploring my, some of my own situations, and more recent trials and tribulations and experiences and interactions with other people and things like that. As I've been on this healing journey, that was a question that was coming up that I felt was okay for me to reflect on and journal about. But it was also, it was like, no, we've been testing everyone. The collective, we've been testing everyone for the last several years. But of course, this year being, wish fulfillment, being the year of the hermit, the year of the wood snake, we're shedding old, right? It's a very karmic year, closing karmic contracts, right? And so on and so forth. So if you are on your spiritual journey and you are on a healing path, the question is, did you pass the ethics test? So it makes me think about all the interactions that you've had over the last couple, maybe the last few years with, various individuals, how certain situations played out, and understanding that the ethics test isn't just about how we treat other people, but about how we allow other people to treat us too, and treat ourselves, because the understanding of divine law and karmic patterns is about what goes against the highest frequency of said individual, right? Remember, we all originate from one source. So as we originate from one source, right, we are all connected to that divine source, which means we all carry a piece of that within us. And it's understanding that's the connection, as we are spiritual beings first, human second, right? We incarnate to human form, and we're living in this realm, in this dimension. Everything that we do to ourselves and one another, that's why, right, the understanding of, mental health is so important. It all starts with the mind, how we treat ourselves, how we treat each other, and how that rippling effect sort of outplays to the collective, right? To the whole, right? We are also still connected to Mother Gaia. So what we do onto ourselves, we're also doing to our earth, right? That's the whole reason for the purge. So, right? So that was what was coming in. Did you pass the ethics test? And so, like I said, there was the Five of Wands, the Queen of Cups, the King of Cups, and the Page of Pentacles that came up. And then from the Lithra Tarot, if you remember me talking about this deck as well, also in the last video that I did, there, this was the card that came out that that layered onto the Five of Wands, and that is emotion. A new emotional beginning is unfolding. Open your heart to love, joy, and connection. This is a time of healing and renewal where feelings flow freely. Trust in the abundance of emotional and spiritual fulfillment. So that, coupled with the Five of Wands and the idea of spiritual warfare, well, that's too that when our emotions are out of alignment with our highest and greatest good, with the highest and greatest version of self, right? Which is self at the highest frequency. So, right, when we have unhealed trauma and those emotions are, are out of alignment or distorted, become distorted versions, friction, right? Five of Wands. So to me, this really speaks to the representation of what these are. These are emotions. And from, right? We're cosmic beings. So, and then on the Queen of Cups, we have contentment. So happiness and emotional satisfaction are within reach. Celebrate your achievements and the abundance you've created. Gratitude amplifies joy. Embrace this moment of fulfillment and share it with others. Yes. Queen of Cups. So the idea of compassion as well, right? When we are in control and are in that feminine energy of our emotions, it's nurturing, we're compassionate, we're caring, we are understanding, we're accepting. We're accepting of our emotions and all aspects of self that have arrived from the life that we've lived and those that have come before us. But in order to make sure that these stay content and not distorted, we have to do the shadow work and the healing work, right? So again, the question, did you pass the ethics test? You want good karma to come in, you have to clear the old. And various aspects of life, right? The physical, the emotional, the mental. So the Queen of Cups, contentment. Now, when we're bringing the and coming into alignment with the masculine and feminine energies of self, right? We have the King of Cups. So now we're going into the world where we're actioning, we're interacting with others, we're going on adventures, right? Exploration from the Lithra Tarot falls on the King of Cups. Exploration card says, a spark of curiosity is urging you to explore new ideas and directions. This is a time of discovery and learning. Trust your enthusiasm and embrace the adventure of growth. Every step forward holds the promise of exciting possibilities. Okay. Then we have the Page of Pentacles. And then we have, on top of that, from the Lithra Tarot, we have Battle. So now that we've brought into balance the masculine and feminine energies of self, or as balanced as we can bring them into, right? Because, I mean, again, we are all perfectly imperfect human beings. So nothing is going to be a solid, rigid, straight line. We're gonna weave and bump and ebb and flow and whatever, right? It's not about being perfect, but it's about recognizing and accepting the highest frequency of self, right? And as we do that, we come into alignment with the frequency, the highest in frequency of other selves as well, right? That's the goal. So the Page of Pentacles, right? We're better equipped to navigate. Especially in the darker half of the year, right? Spooky season, even, if you will. Okay. Battle. Tensions and miscommunication may leave you feeling isolated. Reflect on your approach and seek to rebuild trust. Sometimes walking away is the best path to peace. Choose your battles wisely. So the key there, choosing your battles wisely, right? When we operate from a lower frequency of self in survival mode, stuck in aspects of fear, unknowing, pain, anger, victimization, things like that. And, you know, those emotions are then what govern our approach to life, the choices we make, the miscommunications we would have with other people, right? So we want to do the healing work and clear those traumatic patterns so that we are stepping into alignment with the highest and greatest version of self, right? So we're elevating the frequency of our individual selves. And as we do that, it has the rippling effect outward towards others within our loved ones, you know, those within our community, right? A more immediate community, those maybe on the outer skirts of our community, within our cultures, right? And eventually, through the whole collective of all of us, right? Okay. So then, using the Edgar Allan Poe tarot, yes, so this is a newer deck that well, when I say newer, I mean I've had it for a bit, but newer as in newest in this current rotation of decks that I'm currently working with. And this is the Poe tarot. by Trisha Lee Schufelt, and this is published by Schiffer Red Feather. Right? Is that Red Feather? Yes. Yeah, Schiffer Red Feather. It's Red Feather. Okay. Why? I don't know why I opened the box thinking that I was going to find to confirm that, but it is. I'm pretty sure that's the symbol. Yeah, Red Feather. It is Schiffer Red Feather. Okay, so I was right. Okay. Yeah, and again, this sort of goes back to how I enjoy working and combining the arts, right? Therapy and tarot. Edgar Allan Poe, right? It's a Poe tarot deck, so it's based and dedicated to the works of Edgar Allan Poe, a very dark poet, influenced by dark arts, if you will. And so we have the Three of Candles. These are the backs of the cards. And on the card it says, and this is the poem that comes on the card. I can conceive nothing more sublimating than the strange peril and novelty of an adventure such as this. May God grant that we succeed. So again, this is a card that comes out on top of the Five of Wands, emotion, right? With the Three of Candles. So to me, that really speaks to, the adventure of being in existence, right? Having this 3D body, if you will, right? And being alive, to be human, to experience life, but also being mindful of how we go about it, because what we put out is what we're going to receive in return. So if we're disrespectful of this vessel or any vessels, like vessels that we come into contact with, right? What we do unto ourselves and one another is so we shall receive in return. May God grant that we succeed on the adventure that we go on in this life's journey. Right? The idea of wish fulfillment. Well, that's 17, the star, right? And that now comes onto the pile of the Queen of Cups with contentment. 17, the star, right? When the light was extinguished, she covered me warm, and she prayed to the angels to keep me from harm. To the Queen of the angels to shield me from harm. In a moment of despair, praying to our highest self for guidance, protection, to help us find our way. Sometimes that comes into the forms of other light, forms of light. The people that come into our lives that have love to bring, that have shelter, that give us support, right? It comes in many forms. That includes other selves. But it's when we are in full alignment and in the process of healing, right? And when we do the introspection, do we get to see the blessings that come forth to us? Right? Okay. Then we have on the exploration, right? The King of Cups. So how we put ourselves out in the world, the choices we make, right? How we move around with the contented, nurturing aspects of self. Exploration. 13, death. So to me, okay, let's read the poem on the card. The boundaries which divide life from death are at best shadowy and vague. Who shall say where the one ends and where the other begins? So to me, I feel like that really speaks to the understanding of the masculine and the feminine energies that we all contain, but that understanding that we are our emotions, but we're also, the outer expressions of those emotions. And when it comes to the understanding of, our inherited family trauma, family gifts, and those things, they're not separate from us when the other person, our family members, those that came before us, when they pass, right? Their body may be gone, but their emotions, their trauma, their pain, their gifts, all of that gets back absorbed into the family. So it becomes part of who we are. Essentially, we carry forth their torch, whether their torch may be treacherous, or whether their torch is destructible or destructive, or whether that torch is actually light and is fulfilling and supportive and something to carry forth, I should say, right? Healing, that's the word I was looking for. It's all there. It's all there. So that's why it's important to do the healing work to clear the karmic patterns of our past, so that we are stepping forth being the best versions of ourself, of our family DNA that have come before us. Because what we put forth out in the world is what carries us forward next. And that what flows forward generationally too. So the generations that will come after too. Right? So, and then we have the Page of Pentacles. Right? As I said, from the Lithra Tarot, we have battle. And then we have the Knight of Pause. And this card says, this bug is to make my fortune. He continued with a triumphant smile, to reinstate me in my family possessions. is it any wonder then that I prize it? So, right, the best self moving forward is the prize. When we look at not competing with one another and trying to take another person down, it's like what comes to me, that idea of, you know, the difference between givers and takers, right? For those that are the natural born givers, right? The empaths, things like that. It's about recognizing that you, in your highest form, highest self, well, this really goes for everyone, though, right? Every human being, every being, we are the ultimate prize, ourselves, in form, right? Merging the two aspects of self, the spiritual form with the physical form. But that's the prize, right? And how that now, the legacy that we create sort of brings us forward, right? What are the fortunes that we reap? Well, we have to put our best selves forward in order for that to occur. This is us, right, coming into union with self, full self. So then as we move forth in this world that we've created, we're coming into alignment, living the best version of that self with other best versions of those selves too. And then we get to live in the in you know, this created world with the best that there is to offer from all selves. Reinstate me in my family possessions. That's the legacy. The legacy that we've inherited from our ancestors, but the legacy that we want to put forth now for future generations. So I love that. And the other questions that came up as I was reflecting on those cards over the course of the weekend. So the first question that I said, like I said, that was resonating, that did you pass the ethics test, right? The understanding, and I always talk about this on my channel, you know, always, you know, moving forth, you know, with integrity for self and others. You know, there's a reason why I say, check your privilege and mind your magic at the end of my videos. Part of that is the understanding that the understanding of privilege is not just about the economics or the financial means and things like that, or, you know, what was conditioned by society to be of privilege, but the understanding of privilege from the concept that as we have all walked different journeys and we all walk various paths in life, we would all have faced various different challenges in on our journeys, right? So in that understanding, in that respect, the way that we operate, and a perfect example of this is, right, is again, so that goes back to the understanding of neurodivergent versus neurotypical, right? This world is made for those individuals that are, you know, easily adaptable to, you know, a certain particular loop versus those that are born to be outside the box, or who have a different way of thinking that goes against the norm, right? So people like that are those that, you know, have a different way of processing everything, physically, neurologically, right? Emotionally speaking, right? So people who may be diagnosed with bipolar disorder, those that are diagnosed who are OCD, those that suffer from anxiety and depression, those that are autistic, those that are ADHD, right? And then we all, and the various sort of mixtures that sort of fall along the way. But, you know, over time, society makes it really hard for these people to function. And so when we've had to mask now to adapt and put ourselves into a neurotypical mindset in order to function, we were only able to do that for so long. So that version, that way of living, essentially broke down those physical beings because they could not continue to adapt in that manner, when that was not the natural way for them to function in the first place. So, you know, it takes, there's many aspects and different layers to this healing process, right? It starts with the individual self, but it ripples, it ripples, right? Because we're not the only beings on this planet. We're not the only one. There are multiple ones of us, and we've multiplied over time. So we have to be mindful and remember that when we are going about and actioning ourselves throughout our everyday, right? We are all interconnected, but along the way, trauma has severed that understanding and that tie to each other. So the next questions that were coming up for, you know, to reflect on, and please take everything that I say with a grain of salt as well, right? These, like I said, are the messages that have, you know, that have come in as I've, you know, been, you know, reflecting over the course of the weekend, and, you know, as I've been pulling cards for the collective and myself, and, you know, like I said, I tried to start a video, and then like I said, I ran out of room, but I figured, you know, this was the next best way to get this out, um without having me to refilm and then go through the editing process and all of that. The rest of, you know, what I had planned, I'll probably do in a video, you know, a recorded video, and then post it later on. But this is what I felt needed to come out. So, you know, bear with me. Thank you. The next questions that were coming up in this, like I said, is in sort of subcategories of questions, I should say, rather, for the larger one, which is, did you pass the ethics test? In what ways may you have fallen short on ethics for yourself or others? In what ways could you make peace with yourself and others. And how may you take responsibility for your actions? How might you make amends? So these are the questions that came up that, even with the reading and everything that I said, for you to reflect on for yourself and to journal about. This is to be a very healing process, and as I continue to to build and to grow on my healing path and my journey, bringing myself back into alignment with my true purpose, both professionally and personally speaking. I thank you for your support and your love, and your patience, as I continue to journey forth on this journey, and to the subscribers that I have to date, thank you so much for your support. Again, I think as I stand right now, I'm at 328. So that really makes it just 5 away from reaching the 333 goal here on my channel. And so once we've made it there, that will unlock the giveaway, so that 3 potentially lucky subscribers can win a copy of the Thoughtful Journey Oracle deck by TJ Line, a good friend, new friend, but I was so excited to be able to meet her couple weekends ago at a fair locally, and so it was such a blessing, for that to happen, and it was just another confirmation and support for me, to recognize that they are true light beings out there, and that it, it's not about you know when we connect, we are all light sources, we are all light beings. Some of us have either lost our light, have it's been weathered and beaten, have gotten cloudy, but the understanding is that as we are all light beings, as we are all love, the goal isn't that when we come into contact with one another, we're not to be siphoning the light from each other or trying to dim it. It's about following that light and letting that light lead you to finding yours, to reconnecting with your own internal light source. That is the ultimate goal. As we all come into contact with other light beings and one another, the light continues to grow, and it's together that we burn our brightest. So let's do the shadow work, do the healing work, take off those masks, disconnect from the darker sources and energy that are dragging us collectively down, sorting through the demons and emotions and demonic emotions that have clouded us internally, that have been stuck with us generationally, so that we all can come back into full light form. Because, like I always say, I am love and so are you. As I see myself when I look in the mirror and know that I am human, I know you are too. So with all that being said, please, please remember to take care of yourself and one another. And while you're at it, don't forget about me too. Please like, share, and subscribe. Help me to continue growing this channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll always be in the know when I post my next video. And if you feel so inclined to buy me a cup of coffee to help me support my channel as I continue to grow on this healing path and journey, bringing us all back into alignment with the trueness of love and light that we all are, that I know we all are, feel free to do so. My links are in the description box below. Also, if you feel so inclined to follow me on Instagram, if you want to see more of my tarot collection, you can check that out there because I do more postings in regards to my collection there. I'm not so much, as I do reviews and things like that from time to time, because those are fun. And sometimes some tags and things like that, the odd tags, because those can be fun too. I'm really more all about, showing what's possible when you combine therapy, introspection, wellness, spirituality, and tarot together, for the greatest and the highest good of self and others, so that we can all transform and clear the cobwebs that are keeping us stuck in the lower frequencies of survival mode. We want to live, not just to survive. So I hope that you will continue to join me on this journey. Because I love you so much. And we all deserve to be loved just as we are. Whole, spirit, body, mind. So, with all that being said, I love you all so, so much. Please, please remember to check your privilege, mind your magic, and as always, live, listen, and learn. I love you all so, so much. Thank you, everybody. Bye.